Hello. So yes, I was set the challenge of coming in and maybe to a degree defending the role of the CFO, which I think has only been enhanced. The challenge has been enhanced as the days moved on. But also, and actually speak to what I believe, which is how important the role of the CPO is, and really take you through, to a degree, how I approach running, improving businesses, and how I can see over various aspects, as you'll see as I move through, how the role of the CPO can help the entity concerned. I suppose first of all, let's talk about some expectations. So the expectations of a CFO is somebody who talks absolute gobbledygook and nobody can understand. So if there's absolutely no questions, no remarks, no anything at the end of this, I'll understand why. However, there's not just expectations on me, there's you. So what's the view of CPOs? Well, you really have two ways of stopping people doing things. You either say no or you persuade them that they don't want what they're after. So we're all in the same boat. So why all the fuss? Why suddenly are CPOs and CFOs having to get on? Why are we in the same room talking and trying to help each other? About 2-3 years ago, PwC developed an 8-point checklist which suggested that if you were in an organisation and you ticked any one of the boxes, then you might be having to consider some sort of change. I've picked out the 5 key ones there, although to be honest today, I think they're all in the melting pot. I think change has moved from something that we might have to tweak somewhere to something that's highly disruptive. We're seeing organisations, if not whole industries, becoming extinct. We're seeing cost of entry reducing more and more each year. So for me, it's way past the, are we thinking of growing or are we going to have a change in strategy? And I think that certainly the technological piece, which I've sort of put in grey there, which I didn't see as one of the key measures to start with, I think that's actually starting to drive a huge blur in the C roles. So we have the CFO, CMO, CIO, CPO, CEO, CTO, CDO. And I think a lot of those will blur. I've been, my last 2 organisations, I've had nothing to do with payroll, for instance, because in both we'd outsourced all of the processing, all of the filing of the regulatory returns, and it was all about HR data. So my last 2 organisations, payroll sat with HR, which I was eternally grateful for. So the basics. So just to get financially for a moment. What I always look to drive, and generally the CEOs I work for drive, is organic growth, margin improvement, cash generation, while developing a sustainable business. And by here, in sustainable, I'll go into that in a bit more detail in a moment, but this is a business that can keep going. So it's not slashing costs, it's not getting to profits for 1 year and wondering where next year's work is going to come from. This is not sustainability, this is a sustainable business. Organic growth, because it's been proven, certainly in the listed business environment, that organic growth is worth up to 6 times margin on the bottom line than acquired growth over a period of time. So those are the basics. And what I'll do in a moment is I'm going to go through each of those areas and reflect on how I think or how I've seen procurement functions work better with finance functions to help the business move forward. And if I'm more than happy to accept I've probably missed some. So as I go through, if you think there's something there that's not quite right or you think I've missed something, then please do shout out. But just before I do that, I just really want to talk to our roles. Certainly in my case, I know nothing, I can do nothing. That's generally the view when I move into an organisation. I've generally worked in consulting businesses, so engineering consulting, contract surveying, LLPs, PLCs, but very rarely have I actually been able to do whatever the consultants and the fee earners do. In the latest one, my law firm, that's definitely the case. So I cannot deliver. There are occasions when procurement's been able to deliver to some of our clients because I've been able to work in an advisory way. But certainly for myself, I see my role as ultimately ensuring the right people make the right decisions at the right time and as close to market as possible. And the reason I say that is that ultimately in people-based businesses, It's all about delivering exceptional outcomes for the clients. The same can apply if you're delivering a commodity or a product. But for me personally, it's getting the right people to make the right decisions. And I know, earlier on, Angela from the Pru said advising or offering choice, and I think that was very, very true. So for me, I'm all about guiding people, showing them what might happen if they do something, what might happen if they don't do something. I think for yourselves as well, you have a slightly more unique position than finance because you do look both ways. You look into the organisation and you look out. Whilst I take note of what's going on outside of the organisation, I'm inherently spending more time looking in and making sure that what we're doing is moving in the right direction. So those are our roles. So the first one is growth. Now growth, as I said earlier, is worth far more if it's organic growth, but to be honest as well, it's a very, very good bellwether for the organisation. If you're growing, if you're selling more year on year, then you're doing something right. And you're probably doing more right than other competitors, your competitors. And there's really 4 areas, I think, where CFOs to a degree, but certainly CPOs can help facilitate, drive, and in some cases deliver growth. Client retention through providing more secure and sustainable solutions. I've seen that you're far more likely to retain clients. So putting the growth piece aside for the moment, to grow you've got to have the same base as last year. So growth is more than last year. So it's just as important to retain what you had last year, be it in clients, the same clients or different clients, but in terms of volumes. So I think that's absolutely vital. As has been said 2 or 3 times today, you can be absolutely keen in developing broader offerings. And at times I've actually seen our CPOs bring additional offerings to whatever we're doing. So again, and that really comes from the benefit of looking outside as well because you're working sometimes with competitors, with clients, and you're obviously at times got a far better view of what's going on in the outside world than the CFO. If you have the luxury of actually growing, you then need to have flexibility of capacity. People-based businesses, on the one hand, are very simple. So you have people, you pay them, they do the work, you charge, and you get the cash in. But flexibility is a very, very difficult thing to manage. My current business and the previous business, but 85% of our total cost base was people. Flexibility can be key. And we always look to work with about 80% permanent capacity, 20% contract. And it's how we secure those contracts, those contract resources or flexible resources, however it's structured, can be key. Because you have too many permanents, you have a lead time of 2 to 3 months to realising you've got too many people, then there's a 3-month cost impact. You can quite easily eat into over half a year of cost before you've got your resourcing back to par with where you want to be. So managing flexible capacity is absolute key, certainly in people-based businesses. And finally on this one, I mean, it really depends on the environment. Certainly when I worked for E.C. Harris, which is a large firm they were chartered surveyors by tradition, but they'd grown to more property facility space management. And we probably only had our CPO in the office for 20-30% of the time. He was often out helping consult and deliver on projects, advise clients. So we certainly had 2 or 3 of the top procurement team out delivering to clients. So those are the growth ones. Have I missed any, does anybody think, or am I wildly wrong? Okay. Second one is margin. I apologise for the first point because I was actually made to promise I wasn't going to say cost reduction, but here we go. Cost reduction. So it's always going to be there. I'm sorry, but we're always about cost reduction. So there is that point of reducing costs. But at the same time, we have on several occasions, in effect, developed cost-neutral, which we knew were cost-neutral improvements or changes to our product that we thought we could charge more for, and often did, quite successfully. But also in terms of margin, what often helps is leveraging the high volumes. And that's something that it's almost then that we give that back to you. So if we start selling more, we're driving up the margins, we're driving up the growth, that then gives you far more negotiating power with the suppliers. That's margin. Cash, a bit of a dirty word. So terms of payment, really goes without saying, but you are normally inherent to contract negotiations, and so terms of payment are key. It's one of those funny ones where we seem to always want to give it away to our clients and never want to ask for it from our suppliers. That's maybe a bit unfair, but certainly personal experience has seen we always seem to get stretched, and somehow not only are you a profit-making LLP, but you're a sort of charitable financing organisation at the same time. So terms of payment are key. They vary from organisation to organisation. They vary from territory to territory. But the other one is, and it kind of goes back to earlier when I talked about security of supply. And irrespective of how difficult a client can be or the culture of the territory you're working in, certainly if you've given them what they wanted, when they wanted it, and it works, you've removed about 95% of their excuses not to pay. So again, you don't automatically think of delivering and quality of service, but that certainly inherently helps in collecting cash. Sustainable. So this is, as I said earlier, a sustainable business, not sustainability. But the two things for a sustainable business are growing the order book, so going back to the fact we're growing. If you're growing, you're getting more volumes through, you've got more revenues to cover your costs, and therefore you're able to retain the ability to invest. And this is what we had to fight hard for in the sort of 2009 through to 2011. Being a people-based business, we had people taking salary cuts, people laying people off. But if you're a people-based business, you have to be able to invest. If you just keep going year after year, giving the same offering, the same level of service, you'll see clients leave you. Because there'll be somebody somewhere, somehow, either new to market or somebody who's going to move sideways or vertically, in terms of their offering, will come in and start to take market from you. So it's vital. You've continually got those margins to give you the ability to invest. And sort of moving from the sustainable to the sustainability piece and the very differing demands today of the younger workforce, but there's also the ability to be able to deliver to what I call the full triple bottom line. So stop one is the economic, which is what I mentioned earlier. So to be honest, without making a profit, without cash, the triple bottom line is quite difficult to deliver to. To deliver to some of the environmental issues, the social issues are difficult. If you're seeing your margins reduce or if loss-making, you're not generating cash, it is just nigh on impossible to do. So those are the four. Finally, so I'm whistling through this, but it's where are the savings important? And this is slightly more focused on me to you, CFOs to CPOs. Choosing the lowest bidder is always interesting, can be quite important. Savings inherent to contract, again, can be quite useful and interesting. Even savings based on levels of activity. But ultimately, for me, it's the savings that actually feed through to the P&L. And those are the ones that are key to me. So it's all about profitability and cash. The ones above can be used for negotiating purposes, setting future deals, expectations, both within and outside of the organisation. But for me, certainly, the ones that I always focus on are the ones that hit the P&L. And that is a whistle-stop tour of what the CFO expects or looks for when he's working with CPOs and vice versa. So any questions?